Hey there, in this video, we're going to look at how to prepare for AI engineer job, and in that is specific to AI agent engineer or agentic AI engineer job. We'll look at how the job roles and responsibilities are look like, what an employer is expecting, and how do you prepare both in terms of interview questions you can expect based on the job description. Also, I'll give you the whole path in order to prepare for these jobs so you can get a jobs quickly. So with that, let's look at what we're going to look at in detail. If you're a complete beginner to AI, we'll also look at what exactly is AI agent means, also the characteristics and properties of AI agents, the different type of AI agents that you should be knowing, and then also the various frameworks that you should be familiar with in order to not only learn in depth, but also clear your interviews as well. We'll also look at single versus multi versus hybrid agents, and then how do you build right, the majority of requirement will be how to build and deploy a simple AI agent. We'll begin with simple. In this case, I'll give you the use case on how you can practice building an AI agent as well. So we'll begin with how do you set up a project, an environment on your machine, so you can build the project like that. And then we have to actually write the agent code. We can use ChatGPT for now, but you should be familiar with these libraries and framework, Python libraries and Python frameworks in order. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll also look at how do you test these locally, and then containers and Kubernetes, which is Docker containers. How do you containerize to deploy that application that you have? And then finally, if you want to go to the next level, how do you do CI/CD if you're part of DevOps, MLOps, that kind of a job role you're doing, and then further enhance this. So this is the 6-step process we are going to look at. Then I'm going to also give you the learning path. If you are new to AI, how do you learn? What all things you should be learning in that right from project work, DevOps, AI skills, communication, mock interviews as well. And then finally, we'll wrap up with giving you the actual interview questions based on this job description. I go very, very specific. So based on each job description, the interview question might differ. So we give that as a part of this. So we'll look at, you can download these interview questions as well. So I'll share the how you can also get these slides. I'm going to give the QR code towards end, or it will also be in the description so that you can exactly download this guide and you can get hold of these interview questions as well. And in the future videos, we'll also go on more similar jobs like that. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Atul. I have close to 2.5 decades of IT experience in total. Last few years have been last more than 1.5 decades in cloud, AI, machine learning, these kind of jobs. These are some of the clients I've worked with across globe. I'm based here in UK in London, and I've worked with clients like Royal Bank of Scotland, WorldPay here in the UK, or HP, but also in Europe, in like like the Toyota in Brussels, or International Computing Cloud, and in Switzerland, and as far as in US, in working remotely, Tucson Electric Power, American Excel, Genpact, and so on. And I've also worked remotely with, so whatever you're going to learn is coming from a real experience as well. And I've gone myself from earning less than $100 a month back in India in 2000 till 2004. After moving to UK, I've grown from earning 425 pounds a day to 500, 700, 900. Now a charge in excess of 1,000 pounds a day that you'll be earning. So whatever you're going to cover is coming from a real experience. And and I'll also invite you for a free class on how you can get hold of $250K 1,000+ jobs in AI, machine learning, data science, generative AI in less than 6 months. My proven 3-step framework that has worked not only me, but hundreds and thousands of individuals like you. So if you're planning to get a job, or if you're already working, want to take it to the next level, or you're planning to get a good high paying job in AI, machine learning, data science, generative AI, and not confident to apply, we take you from not confident to super confident to apply, or from no interview calls to multiple interview calls week on week basis, and then from struggling to get clear interviews or get a job offer, having a multiple job offer. This is a 3-step framework. You can check link in the description below. We'll talk about that as well. And using the same 3-step framework, individuals like Shrija, based in I think Canada, after struggling to find a job, got a landed an AI machine learning job. Or SJ, based in US, not only she doubled her salary, but also her husband got a new job as well on this. Or Shovik, again in US, got a enterprise architect a role in with Bank of America. And we have tons and tons of guys across the globe, UK, India, Middle East, Singapore, and as far as Australia, people getting jobs as well. So 45,000 individuals, check the link in the description below as well. So with that, let's go and look at first we're going to look at this job description, and then uh, I'm going to go and talk about this. So this is the job description look like. Let me make myself here, and then this is a job. And what you can do is, first of all, how do you find these jobs? You can go to LinkedIn and there's a job search feature, and then type whatever AI engineer, AWS engineer, machine learning operations, whatever job keyword you're looking to search for. There are plenty, thousands and thousands of jobs. You search, I picked up this particular case in this AI agent engineer. So make sure that first and most important thing is you read and understand the job description very, very clearly and thoroughly. And make sure you're clear with every terminology or concept given the job description very well. And then you can take the whole this job description as it is and give it to the chat GPT or other AI tools and say, hey, and give your resume as well and say, help me in preparing my resume based on the job description, and that will give you update your resume. And as even if you have not done something that their employer is asking, I still want you to write in resume, but make sure that before the interview, you do some hands-on lab that I'm going to show you an example here. So in this case, the core responsibility they're looking for AI engineer, they need someone who can build and test AI agent. So you need to know how to first of all build an AI agent and test it. This particular case is a more on a developer side, but there are a lot of other job roles which needs operations, which needs consultant. Someone needs to design these agents. Someone needs to work on maintaining those agents as well as an operations part. So you should know how to build and test AI agent. I'm going to show you today with a simple use case to begin with. Then also making about an hands-on experience with agent framework. So that means you should also be familiar with the different agent frameworks, and maybe at least you should have used one or two agent frameworks, but at least familiarity with that so you can speak in the interviews. Also, they're familiar with large language models, LLM. Right now, I've not covered LLM, but in the future videos, I'm going to cover what an LLM means, foundation model means, if you're completely new to these concepts. Now, their core responsibilities, build and deploy AI agent using various frameworks. So that is something you should be familiar with. You should also know how to test the agent interaction. So if you're part of QA, this is another role as a QA engineer can do. So developer needs to test, but then also there is a dedicated QA team like the way you do it on normal development work as well. And then how do you need to know, be good at documenting the behavior of that agent, how it behaved. Also need to know about performance and reliability. Right now, I'm not focusing that. In future videos, we'll talk about how do you improve the agent performance and then reliability and testing all those things. You should also be aware of familiar with how agents talk to each other. So there's a multi-agent. We'll see that in this today. So how do you multi-agent works? And then also you should be part of the communities or these agent ecosystem as well. Now these are mandatory and the required experience is Python. Again, there's a separate video. I have another channel on K2 Academy. In that we are going to go and do the whole Python, and I think I might link or create. If I see enough request, leave a word keyword Python so I know if you're looking for. Python is specific to AI and machine learning engineers. So good with Python, specifically the framework and libraries. And if you still want to go into another question I get is, hey, is it only for developers? These kind of jobs, AI jobs? Answer is no. You have AI consultancy, operations, administration, and so on. So if you're an architect, if you're an administrator, you should be knowing what are the libraries and framework that you should be familiar with. We'll see some of these today in this video. So Python. You should also be experience with LLMs. So what is an LLM? As I said, I'm going to cover that in future, but for right now, large language models, based on that, you get some interpretation, you get some maybe the code generation or maybe the generative AI that you've seen or a lot of other AI things as well. So familiar with LLMs and then also AI concept. And then nice to have or good to have, you should also be agent framework, especially the LangChain, AutoGPT, and there are others which I'll show. I think there are 7 or 8 very common. So you should be at least aware of 3 or 4. Also basic DevOps knowledge. Again, it's good to, and especially if your administration, management, end-to-end DevOps, CI/CD life pipelines, how do you manage and maintain operations and DevOps as well important. And then also, of course, API development, which is the application programming interface and the open source contribution. So this is job description. Based on that, we're going to pick and prepare. So first and most important is what is an AI agent? So AI agent is nothing but as a system. It refers to either a system or a program that is capable of autonomously, which means it's not require any intervention of a human being, though you can involve or engage the the clients as well. So autonomously on behalf of a user or another system, which is very, very important. It can be do it on the behalf of users or maybe system to system talking to each other. This is a image which I picked up, all credit to the guys here. Now, so it can interact. So within, if you see now a agent, it can take an autonomous action, or if required, you can have a human intervention as well. A agent can also have its own memory. so it can work with its own memory. It also can be reacting based on the environment it sees. It can react, and then it can also have access to tools where it can make API calls, it can access internet, it can interpret code, and a lot of other things it can do. And then it can also either delegate the task to other agents or work with a human being or vice versa as well. So that's also all these features of AI agent. That's what typically in a simple layman's term it does. So AI have some characteristic properties. So first of all, AI can, as I said earlier, it can perform autonomously. So this all of these which I mentioned here, these are the characteristics and properties that you see. So it can work autonomously. I'm not going to read it right now. I would say pause this, or below this video, you will have a link so you can download this PDF and you can read this as well. Now, there are different type of agents you should be familiar with. I'm talking about if you know something, so you can skip that part and directly jump on the point about the interview question and so on. But I would suggest you to have these concepts. This is very, very important to understand. So first of all, if you look at the type of agent, there are 5 majority type of agent at the time of recording this video. One is utility based, goal based, learning based, model based reflex, as well as simple reflex. So when you're going for interviews, you might be asked and say what kind of agents you worked on, and so you should have maybe make yourself comfortable with answering questions like these. So again, I'll quickly go over each of these each of these agent types. So we're utility based, as I said, it could be something based on action or functionality. So maybe a price optimization tool, as I said. So it compares, it goes to the different systems and compare the price and gives the best price. So it's basically used as a utility that you might be seeing. Um, Another might be happening. Let me move myself. Yeah, another might be a goal based. So this is on to achieve a goal. So you might have used the autonomous cars or something. So you're reaching out to a particular destination, in this case on a map. Another one is a learning based. So it will learn based on the experiences. There's something called as in machine learning model reinforcement learning. So it'll be using that and it'll be improving based on the. So you're playing a chess game or some other games and improving based on the previous learnings as well on. And there are other two here. So the model based reflection, it has a memory, and based on the memory, what it does based on the previous, it behaves and respond. So for example, a thermostat agent here, it remembers the previous temperature, and then based on the time, let's suppose in the morning, it needs to heat up more, or evenings, then it will change and it will act based on that. Or there are simple reflexes which are just simply reflecting and doing some input and it's responding as well. So without any more simple logic. If it's dark, switch on the light. If it's off, and so on. So this is very simple way I've explained all these 5 different type of agents. So you'll be working on some of these things. Next is about the agent framework, and these are the main agent framework. LangChain is very, very common, so you should be familiar with this framework, or AutoGPT. The others as well, I've seen Microsoft Semantic or AutoGen from Microsoft, and then others as well. So I'll pause this right now. Later, we're going to use this framework. So make yourself familiar. Pause this video here or download the PDF from this video below link. And if you need any help, just ask on that. But understand you should be familiar with each of these, or at least 2 or 3, minimum 1, but 2 are good, or 3 are of course nice. The more you know, the better it is. So frameworks, which one that you're doing. Also, maybe you might be asked in the interviews, which one in your view is better, or what will you recommend based on pros and cons of each of these. Again, more advanced things as well, as you see. The next one that you see is then there is a single versus multi versus hybrid agents. Now, single agent, as you know, probably can be doing one agent handling all the tasks. And, there are pros and cons of each. Make sure you read and understand this. There's a multi-agent, which means uh, uh, more than one agent doing it's a bigger task and more on so they're using modular approach on that, so more sophisticated work being done as well. So for example, in this case, one example is one agent is retrieving the data while another one is performing analysis, and then there's a coordinator agent which aggregate results and give the result output. There's a hybrid or hierarchical where you have one monitoring on one administrator approach, and then that is orchestrating or giving tasks to others, as you say. So there's a master planner agent, which breaks down the user agents into a goal and then assign it to the worker agent. So that's under a single. So when you're designing, maybe your architect will design what kind of agent architecture we're going to pick. Or if you're an architect, that's what your role you'll be playing on that as well. Now, This is what you should be doing. So before you go on to the job, um, this is how you will learn. If you're completely new, you probably want to do build and deploy a simple AI agent because that's what the job demands. So what we'll be doing is we are taking a use case. In this case, we'll be using a basic simple question answer agent for OpenAI GPT to answer queries. So it's like a kind of a chatbot where it will be using the APIs Open GPT-4 and then giving the question and then we're getting response back. It sounds simple and it is indeed simple, but that's how you'll learn and pick new things. So uh, what you can do is you can show in your interview saying that this is what you did a chat GPT using this. So then it will help an employer to understand that you are familiar with agent design, how do you integration, how do you deploy. Now it also will show an employer that you have some knowledge about Python or LLMs or how do you deploy these things on cloud, whether it's AWS, Azure, Google, or any other cloud or Oracle and so on. Also, how do you do the error handling, logging, monitoring, testing, security, scaling, CI/CD, all those provide tasks as well. So in this case, we are using LangChain, we're using FastAPI, we're using Docker, and understand so make sure you're familiar with LangChain, what that LangChain does. Again, I'll create a separate video dedicated about entire thing about LangChain. But in a simple term, it's a Python library which will be for building an application with LLMs. All those things we'll talk about. There's a separate. I think we might have done a video, and I'm not sure whether we've done it here, but it's definitely inside the program that we talk about. Next is FastAPI. Again, it's a Python web framework for building APIs. So we'll be using that. And then Docker is, think of it like a VM, but a smaller, uh, it basically it's a runtime environment where you have the entire code, all the dependencies, everything bundled in a very tiny thing, and that you can be spinning and starting your application on that. Again, there is a separate videos we're going to look at whole deployment, machine learning deployment model, etc. that you'll be seeing. So make sure you're familiar with these concepts about these on this. I'm keeping because the video is going to go be bigger and bigger, so I'm going to keep it short. But you can download and build this whole thing. So first thing what you need to do is you need to create an simple environment where you will be creating some directories. We'll say simple agent, and then we are logging into that agent, and that is where we are setting up an environment. We are doing Python 3. We're using Python 3 in this particular case. By the time in future, if you're watching this and if the Python version update, you use that as well. And we are using pip to install. We are installing LangChain. We're using OpenAI, FastAPI, and Unicorn. UVCon. We are installing these libraries, Python libraries, so that my code can execute as well. So you should be familiar with what all these things are actually even. Now this is where we are actually downloading a code and deploying as well. So I'm exporting all these libraries and things on here. And then first of all, you need an OpenAI key. So you should have the login ID subscribers. Again, I'll create a separate video to actually we'll talk about that. So I want to keep the video simple for now here. So what we are doing is we are defining loading the API keys. You will need that from your OpenAI keys. How to do, I'll create a separate video for that as well. Now, this is where we are actually saying, creating a prompt on here, and then it's going on and getting the answer a response back. And this is where we're using this fast API, and then which is giving me answer back on it's basically, and then there are HTTP code response back if there's a based on authorization if required, whatever, but authorization I've already picked up here. And then I'll get an answer, and then it'll, how do you do troubleshooting, logging, security, a lot of other things are still unanswered here right now, but this is a simple use case you can do and create. Now, for another thing is, this is where you need to test it locally. So what we are doing is we are using container in this particular case, and we are running on locally on port number 8000, and we are deploying. So again, as a developer, as an administrator, if you're a developer, you're testing on locally, but then you're going to give it to MLOps engineer, DevOps engineer, who will be actually deploying this code on an actual production environment. So this is where you'll be testing with these commands and tools as well. So, and then this is where we are actually creating a Docker file. So in this particular case, again, you should be, as a developer, you should be familiar with how do you containerize the applications on here. So we are actually, everything that is required for my container to run, we are doing it here. We're creating a Docker, we're building a Docker image so that that can run on a any container platform. And this is where I'm providing my keys on OpenAI keys for this agent as well. So this is again This is where you've done it till developer part. Once it's done, the MLOps engineer or DevOps engineer will come and pick it on and deploy it on either cloud. You can do, there are different options available. You can do on AWS, which is a ECS or Fargate, or EKS, Elastic Container Service, or Azure has Azure Container Instances, or Google has Google Cloud Run, and so on. You can further extend and do a CI/CD pipeline where it will pick up the code from code repository and deploy it on um, pick up and convert into image, and then from that image it can deploy in any container and Kubernetes environment as well. So build with Docker image to push to container registry, which is a repository where my images are stored. So if you are familiar with these concepts, if not, learn and understand these things, and they're totally easy. Sounds simple, sorry, sound difficult right now because you're not familiar, but once you understand the end-to-end picture, it'll become much more clear. And then finally, you can deploy that code into a dev environment, test environment, production environment as well. So you should also be familiar with uh, rolling for like version control, rollback, deploy, testing, and so on. So this is something you should be doing. And then you can further extend it, enhance it by doing logging and monitoring. So there's something called as Prometheus and Grafana. If you're part of our programs, we cover all these Prometheus, Grafana, logging, monitoring, containers, Kubernetes, MLOps, pipeline, CI/CD, all those things. And then, of course, you should also be familiar with authentication rate limit, which means you want to make control and then people are not hitting. How do you handle thousands of requests coming together? All those things as well. So those are the things will be helpful for an interviewer to understand deploying, building, deploying is. Now, what's the learning path? If you're a complete beginner or if you already are working and want to take to the next level, you should at least have familiar with Python. Again, you get a dedicated Python, especially Python targeted for libraries and framework that are in AI or machine learning things. You should also be familiar with LLMs, which are the common LLMs and working with LLMs. Agent development part, again, how do you understand LangChain is very, very common. So chains, tools, agents, and then also how do you clone the agent? This is again, how do you extend the agent capabilities? And then there are other frameworks. You should be exploring and working on these frameworks, which I mentioned earlier. Also do some projects. This is one a very simple project, but you can extend more and more projects. If you are, as I said, if you, I'll link the description below about the three-step framework session that we have a free class. That's roughly around 90-minute class. Join that class. Inside that, uh, if you're a member of that, our programs, we give you all these projects and so on. So you integrate APIs, logs, behavior, troubleshooting, and so on in your, and then uh, if you're a developer and if you can do DevOps, good. If not, there's a separate roles and responsibilities about DevOps, MLOps engineer, where they can deploy the code repository, etc. as well on uh, deploy the code, take the code, deploy on dev test environment and testing part as well. Of course, you should be good in documentation, communication, how do you do? And then make sure that you prepare for these mock interviews. This is just one simple example of I've given. So I'll give you the questions in a minute here as well. So make sure that you prepare for the mock interviews on here. Now, with that, let's look at the actual interview question answers on here. So first of all, LLMs and prompt engineering related questions. So every job description deserve you to prepare good for interviews. That's how you get 250K thousand plus job. Or even if you're not ready for 250K plus job, even if it's like 100, 150, if you're a complete beginner into that, you maybe begin with that. But make sure you're familiar with these, how an interviewer want you to be clear that you're clear with the concepts, and then you can handle and learn on top of that. So understand LLMs, the prompt engineering, the questions around that. I'm not going to read it right now. As I said, I'm going to give you the full this link so you can download these questions. So prepare questions around LLMs and prompt engineering because as a agentic AI engineer or you'll be doing a lot of prompts, you'll be doing LLMs and so on. So especially when I say prompts, I think I'm not sure whether I posted here that there's a one shot, there is zero shot, there is a chain of thoughts and a lot of other prompt engineering. I'll create a separate video about prompt engineering as well. Now, make sure you're familiar with agentic AI agent frameworks, LangChain, RAG, the other tools, how do they work, how they connect to each other, how the different agents talk to each other, all those things you should be familiar with on. Then, how do you deploy? How do you test it? How do you do the troubleshooting, logging, all those things if you're a developer? that part. If you're an administrator, ops guy, then you should how do you deploy and so on. So you should be familiar with these concepts as well. Then Python, APIs, and DevOps, of course, and prepare for these questions as well. And and then finally, related to documentation, collaboration, debugging. If the first part is good, they probably usually typically, but always good to prepare for this. How do you, for example, how do you communicate the limitation of LLMs and the known bugs? Um, Interviewer might ask about, give me an example of where you had bugs and what kind of issues you have encountered and so on. Link in the description below, and that where you will have the code and this whole presentation as well on these slides that you probably might get it. Now, this is just an normal AI agent. There are other jobs where you have a lot of requirement in terms of AWS AI jobs, Azure AI jobs in that. So this is, you can learn, there are tools in AWS. There's a Bedrock, which is for generative AI. There's also a SageMaker for machine learning. There's also the Amazon Q and so on. Then similarly on Azure, you have Azure AI Foundry, you have the Azure Machine Learning Studio and other tools. So make sure that you're familiar with these tools because, and then there are third-party tools as well. So in the free class that I mentioned at the start in the description, attend that 90-minute free class to understand what all things you should be learning and the full framework as well. So that's that's pretty much as I said. So check the description below about to get this going from you can get hold of this three-step framework to go from learning and becoming an expert in AI, machine learning, generative AI, and MLOps as well. So we'll look things like Python, LangChain, LangGraph, LangFlow, machine learning, agentic AI, MLOps, prompt engineering, and then AWS and Azure, everything on that, and then do some projects. On top of that, resume, LinkedIn, and then with that, multiple mock interviews. So if you are not confident, or if you're applying for the interviews but not getting interview calls or no job offer, or we take you from there to not confident to super confident, no interview call to multiple interview calls week on week basis, and from no job offer to multiple job offers. And we do use this three-step framework, done and tried and tested for hundreds and thousands of guys, and there's no reason why you shouldn't do. So check the link description and offer this free class as well. And in the next video, I'm going to probably be covering some certifications, and or let me know the comments what exactly you want me to cover, and then I'll see you in the next class. Give me the feedback if you want to change something or any other thing that or any other suggestion you have to improve on these videos. I'm constantly working and improving these videos. So with that, I'll see you on next video. Take care and bye for now.